Welcome everybody to our NFL talk. Got Jake Smith here. Jake, say hi.
Hey, how we doing, fellas?
So today we're going to be talking about a few things. We're going to start with Lamar Jackson after this big week. Lamar went completely insane. 4 touchdowns against the Bengals. They ended up sitting him towards the end of the game. Do you think Lamar is now the top contender to be the MVP?
Um, I think it's almost inarguable yes. There's one argument that we'll make a little bit later in our podcast, but for now we're gonna focus on Lamar and what he's been doing is just incredible. I mean, yeah, I'm curious if he can sustain the way he's running the ball. When a lot of guys similar to him have not been able to keep that type of play style throughout their career, they tend to get banged up and injured, and even guys that don't run as much as him that are as active around and tend to get banged up. So let's hope that he can keep his longevity going. But I think he's right now what he's doing for the Ravens is insane. He's brought that team to another level.
I think Lamar Jackson is like a completely different animal from all the other guys, though. All the mobile quarterbacks that get injured over time, like the RG3s and those types that really flamed out after a couple years because they couldn't keep up with the punishment or something happened. When you watch him run and you watch him play, it's like he's just a little bit ahead of everybody else. He doesn't get smashed, like he doesn't do that thing where like he needs a yard or two and all of a sudden he gets like clotheslined by a linebacker. That doesn't seem to happen to him. He seems far enough away from everyone all the time to where he's not in any real he's not really in any danger to get injured. So it's going to be really interesting to watch as he goes on, especially with his passing. You know, people are waiting for his passing to fall off, but especially against bad teams in particular, he tears those teams up, man. Teams they're supposed to beat, they beat. They don't screw around, and Lamar is the centerpiece of all of it. So it's really interesting to watch, and I think right now it'd be really hard. Like, who else would you say would be MVP? I think at the moment, I think Lamar Jackson is currently the MVP, like number one, and number two, I guess would have to be Tom Brady, but I don't think he's playing very well. So Russell Wilson, I guess, would be two.
Yeah, I
CMC
would
would be
say.
three, or maybe CMC's one, and then you put Lamar two, or CMC's. Those are the top three, though.
I mean, I would like to say CMC as the MVP, right? Because what he's doing is just disgusting. And then it'd be cool to see somebody that's not a quarterback, but we all know it's a quarterback-driven world, right? And it's gonna be a quarterback. So I think Lamar is the number one, but I really do think that Wilson is a darn close second. He's playing very good this year. Um, and I mean, who have the Ravens lost to this year? They lost to the Browns and the Chiefs, right? That's their two losses, I
And
believe.
did they lose
Yeah.
twice? Yeah.
Yeah, they lost twice, and they're what? They're 8-2 right now, 7-2.
Mm-hmm.
Eight, yeah.
So,
Yeah, they've beaten some great. They've beaten up on some great teams. Even they smacked around the Seahawks and the Patriots in back-to-back weeks. That's pretty impressive to do. And like we just said, both of those quarterbacks you thought were possibly on the MVP race, and he won both games handedly. So, um, yeah, CMC. Other than that, yeah, it's definitely Lamar.
yeah, I'm going with Lamar just because he's the quarterback, but I think CMC is number two, and it really matters how the season ends between the two of them. I think Russell Wilson's also up there, but the Seahawks just I don't know. I know they're good. I haven't really I'm not really there yet on it. I think Lamar and CMC have done just a little bit more, so I think they're tier one. But it matters who's winning the most pretty much towards the end. Does CMC carry that team to the playoffs, or what about the Ravens? Do they lose like 4 out of 5? It's possible. So we'll see what happens when it comes down to it. But right now, I think hands down it's got to be Lamar Jackson. All right, so we got our second. We're going to talk about the Patriots now. Now that we talked about how good Lamar is and how he's carried this Ravens team, the Patriots have
One sec.
been
I don't
yeah.
want to cut you off, but before we get on this topic, I do want to throw out there. You mentioned RG3 a little bit earlier, and
Yeah.
I just got to defend that poor guy. Like, can we really blame him, or was Shanahan just an awful coach and should not have let him play as soon as he did?
No, it wasn't. I don't think you can blame RG3 for everything that happened
I
because a
yeah,
lot of it was the coaching.
I do think that they just completely mishandled that situation, and that
Yeah.
poor guy got left out to dry for that. And it
Yeah.
sucks that I handedly hear that where people say, that they wasn't as good because he was running in mobile, but I think he was good enough. I think he just got hung out to dry.
No, he was the original combination because not only could he run, he actually had the arm. No one even really questioned it. Like he had the arm for the most part compared to like most mobile quarterbacks come in. It's like, can he throw though? It's like, oh, he can throw 90 yards, but can he actually like hit you on a slant? And
Right.
that wasn't a question with RG3. He could throw. So, yeah, the
I
injury
think
thing,
Shanahan just ruined that poor guy.
yeah, that poor guy just got destroyed and he just wasn't the same after that. So, but for that year, he was the man. His highlights were unbelievable.
Insane. Yeah, he was nuts. But all right, sorry. But to the Patriots.
All right, we'll move on to the Patriots now. 8-1, fresh off the bye. Fresh off that loss. The Ravens. Where do the Patriots go from here? Obviously, they're gonna win the AFC East with the Jets and the Bills, and the Dolphins. They're just no contenders there. The Bills are doing what 6-3 now, but they're not going to be able to keep that up. They're probably going to end up like 9-7. So, where do you think the Patriots land in the AFC? Do
Nine
you
and
think?
seven.
Do
Do you
you
think that's your prediction for the Bills?
for the Bills? Yeah, I'd say the 9-7. I think that's
Okay.
right. So, where do you think the Patriots land in the AFC? Do you think they're number one?
Um, Probably, right? It makes the most sense. Uh, they tend to win the games they're supposed to win. The Patriots don't really lose when they're not supposed to. Um, and there's not many more games that they're like gonna lose. They play. Who do they play next week? Let me check.
Ooh, the Patriots.
Yeah,
The Patriots play
gotta
the
double check.
Eagles next week.
Okay, yeah, they're not losing that. Eagles are struggling this year. Eagles are really struggling this year. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And then oh yeah, that's right. They play the whole NFC East this year. I forgot. Um,
So you'll
so
have
yeah,
the
they play the Eagles,
Eagles.
then the Cowboys.
Yep.
They've already beaten the Giants, and they've already beaten the Redskins.
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure they're just gonna sweep the NFC East. Then they play the Texans. Now that's always a good game, but Bill tends to beat up on Bill. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't.
What is has Bill O'Brien won one once? I think he's beaten him once.
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
It is in
Um,
Houston, so
it is in Houston, and Houston is very good this year. But I honestly still think the Patriots win that game. Then they go out and the Chiefs come to New England and play the Patriots. That's a coin flip for me. I'm gonna coin flip that one. That could be their second loss. Um, I think that's a pretty good probability for a second loss. I think the Chiefs come in and they surprise them. Then the Patriots play the Bengals. That'll be a clean, easy win. Patriots play the Bills. They'll win that game, I think.
yeah,
And then the Patriots play they end the season against the Dolphins.
yeah.
So I'm looking at a very realistic 14-2,
This
13
schedule's
and 3
so
maybe.
easy.
Like yeah, I mean the next two games I really got. I mean they're gonna beat the Eagles and the Cowboys. Like they're coming off a loss. They're always pissed off after a loss.
Hmm.
They're gonna come out and slap, and they're on a bye week, so they're just gonna slap. I really think they're gonna come out. They'll come out and they'll play the Texans too 2 weeks later. I don't know. I think 14-2 is what we're looking at. I think they're gonna own the whole AFC. Really good probability of going to the Super Bowl again. I mean, that's kind of what you're always looking at in New England, though, right?
Yeah, and from everything I can tell, I mean the Ravens play. Let's see, the Texans next week. That's a good start. Then the Rams. The Rams lost to the Steelers this week, but it's still a decent team. The 49ers. That's pretty hard team there. And they play the Bills and the Jets, and the Browns and the Steelers again. So they have a chance for those to be easy games, but that initial burst, Texans, Rams, 49ers,
I mean,
the Steelers is a possible loss too. I mean, the
I think
Bills
that
is a
they
possible.
end up playing. They probably end up playing the Ravens in the AFC Conference Finals, though. AFC Championship seems pretty likely.
Yeah.
It's happened a few times now, right? Actually, it usually happens in the divisional round, but the Ravens against the Patriots have been a pretty good playoff matchup for the past 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the Patriots Ravens are probably where it's going to land, but we'll see. Should be the conference final though, I believe. Because the two of them just have such easy schedules now, and there's a drop off. After the Ravens, I think it's the Texans, but the Texans Chiefs are like tier 2, and then it's just there's nothing from there. So
Yeah, I agree. I think the Chiefs are a little bit. They're just inconsistent sometimes. It's kind of a trend of Andy Reid, though, right? It's been something he's done throughout his career, where he's just had spurts of absolute greatness, and
who?
then just some bump. Andy Reid,
Oh yeah, yeah.
he's just got spurts of incredible coaching, and then he just
And they're
throws in a
resting
couple of
players, which is very interesting. LaShawn
Yeah,
McCoy is getting rested. That's amazing. Um, it's
It
very
is kind of
interesting.
hilarious.
It's very interesting.
He's pulling a Kawhi.
Yeah. So okay, we'll go on to. God, I'm just so lost now. The 49ers. Can they stay undefeated? How long? Or they can't stay undefeated. I mean, I can't believe they're still undefeated, to be honest with you. I mean, they're good, but I mean, they can't be this good. So there's a few losses coming up. It's just where. But
Their schedule is daunting moving forward. Okay,
it's got to
they
be
are 8-0,
brutal.
but they play the Seahawks tonight, and phew, I don't know. I don't know who wins. Seahawks are very good. Niners are also very good. So I'm gonna give the Niners the benefit of the doubt, and I'm gonna say they're gonna win this game tonight. I'm picking the Niners. Then next week they play the Cardinals. That's an easy win. Week after that they play the Packers. Woo! It's gonna be a tough game.
That's gonna be a
But
tough game.
the Packers did kind of get exposed a little bit by the Chargers, but it was a bit of a fluky game.
Yeah, the Chargers are a weird they're like, you remember when the Grizzlies were really good? And they could just
Yeah.
beat anyone at any time, but they also lost a lot too. That's what the Chargers are. The Chargers against any team can win. If they went to
Yeah.
Foxborough tomorrow and you were like guaranteed New England, I was be like, you're crazy. But they also suck at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the Niners Packers is going to be a really good game. Then after the Packers, they go and play the Ravens in Baltimore. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a really tough game. Then after that, they got to go play in New Orleans against the Saints.
That one's going to be
Gonna be
brutal.
Going to be another real tough game.
So after the Saints this week, they
Then they
really
kinda
need
get
to
a
make
week
up some
off.
ground.
Then they kind of got a week. They got a week off the following week where they're
Yeah.
at home against the Falcons.
Yep.
Should be a pretty easy game. Then they got another good one, man. They're gonna play the Rams. They gotta play the Rams at home. It's gonna
Yep.
be a real good game.
That's
And
gonna be
they
a great
end
game.
the season in Seattle.
Yeah, that's brutal. That's a brutal way to end
Woo!
that one.
I mean, I could actually see this 8-0 team finishing 12-4. I could see them going 4-4 in their last 8 games. I could see them losing tonight. I think they're gonna win tonight, but I could see them losing tonight. I could see them winning against the Cardinals, losing against the Packers, losing against the Ravens, losing against the Saints,
Yeah.
and then winning against the Falcons, Rams, and then upsetting Seattle in the final game of the season, going 12-4.
Let's see. Let's see. The Seahawks will beat them
It's
tonight.
more likely. I think it's more likely that the Niners win tonight, because the Niners are at home tonight.
I'm gonna give.
And it's more likely they lose in Seattle
No.
in the last game of the season.
No, I'm gonna say the Seahawks win tonight. Okay. The Niners beat the Cardinals. I'd say the Packers beat the Niners. So that's 2. The Ravens beat the Niners. That's 3. Saints will beat the Niners. That's 4. Then I think Seattle probably beats them again. That's 5. So I think they get 5 losses. I think they're 11-5 to end it.
From 8-0 to 11-5.
Yeah.
That is a tough way to go into the playoffs.
That's just how I can't see them keeping it up with that schedule. I can see them tearing through a couple of these teams. Obviously the Falcons. I can see them beating the Rams.
Realistically, seeing them go like 13-3, 14-2. Like they could win tonight at home. Then
Oh,
they'll win
yeah.
tomorrow against the Cardinals, or the one next week against the Cardinals. Then they're at home against the Packers. They could easily win that game.
Yeah.
They're looking at 11-0 after that. Then they play the Ravens. That'd be their first loss, 11-1. Play the Saints. They lose 2 in a row, 11-2. They
Mhm.
get that pick-me-up home game against the Falcons.
I just
Now they're 12-2. They play the Rams at home and win 13-2, and then they go in and they want to play hard and finish the end of the season against Seattle,
I just don't
and
see
maybe
Jimmy.
maybe 13-3.
I don't think I just don't see it. I just don't know
You
how to
don't
keep
see
it up.
it.
I
They're
just don't know
already
what it
8 and
is.
0,
I
man.
know, but I think it's
They
just.
beat the Panthers 51-13.
I know, but the Panthers are. I just think that was a bad week. I don't chalk that up to being 49er dominant. I really didn't. I just don't see it, and it's possible I'm totally wrong, and I just haven't really watched their
The
games.
defense
Like
is so darn good, man.
I haven't really watched many of their games. I watched a lot. I watch a lot of games, but I have not watched much Niners. So maybe that's it, but I don't know. I guess we will see. We will certainly see. Um, let's rotate now to the Panthers and talk about Cam Newton. What do you think Cam Newton's future is after this year? Is it in Carolina, or do you think he moves on? Do you think someone picks him up, maybe he gets traded, something like that?
Uh Panthers are 4-4 right now, right? I think. Yeah. No, 5-3. Right? 5-4. No, they just lost yesterday to the Packers. Okay.
Okay.
So they're 5-4. Kyle Allen's good. Kind of like the kid, right? Kind of like
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, he's doing
He's
really well.
he's he's what Cam Newton never was, with the consistent, steady presence in the pocket. You never got that from Cam. He just wandered around a little bit, and I think that see, that's something I like about Lamar. Not to go back on him, but he knows how to stay in the pocket. He doesn't let himself get sacked because he wandered around. That's something Cam did a lot. I think he wandered out of the protection of his offensive line, and he would get banged up from it. And if he just was able to just hold steady in the pocket and be willing to read the play a little bit better, he'd not be as banged up, I think. Um, but no, I actually do think they're gonna move on from him. I think and there'll be a big market. I mean, they'll work something out. Probably trade him. There's got to be teams that want him. Titans, right? Titans would really like Cam Newton. A few other teams, the Bucks. Bucks would probably really like Cam Newton. I think they'll work out a trade probably to try to find him a good home. He's been nothing but good to Carolina, right? Brought him to a Super Bowl. Maybe he gave up on him during that Super Bowl.
I
But
Yeah. He gave him that MVP year was absolutely insane.
yeah, that was wild.
That one was just
15 and
incredible.
1, right?
Yeah, that was
15 and
just
1
an
that year.
absolute destructive year that he was on, and the way he tore through teams. Oh my God, his ceiling was just so high. Like it's like almost like we talk about Lamar now, but quarterbacks can sort of control a game in a certain way. Like they can throw it, and things happen, blah blah blah. But to be like as overly dominant as Lamar Jackson has been to certain teams where he's thrown 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, ran for a 47-yarder. Like that's just an overall dominance in the game where you're just like the best football player, period. Like, and it's not close. Yeah. And
I
Cam
do feel
Newton
like
was
you're
that
right with
way,
that.
where
Yeah,
like
Cam did have that best player in football feeling.
just absolutely insane, and then just fell off that next year. Like that Super Bowl just did something to his psyche. I think he was beat up too, and I think that season, like he really went all out, did as much as his body would take. But I think there was a long-term effect to that season because he's just not been the same since. He's just had injuries constantly. His arms stuff was improving this year a little bit. I mean, he seemed a little more accurate to start the year, but that foot injury just it killed him. I don't know if he can play or at what level he's going to play too much longer. And I don't know if he's a market upgrade over like, certain people. You talked about like the Bucks. I don't know why you'd go from Jameis to Cam at this point.
Really?
I don't.
mean,
I just don't.
there's nobody that's had more turnovers in football than Jameis Winston.
I know, but
Like that man.
Cam's
Cam doesn't turn the ball over like that, though.
no, but might. It's quite possible Cam will crucify that offense to what it was.
Yeah, I do feel like Cam's a bit of he's a drive killer sometimes with
Because
his accuracy
the
issues.
the very beginning of the Panthers year, his drives were brutal to watch. Now he was having some weird stat lines like like crushing it in the completion department, but then all of a sudden everything would just fall off completely. Like he'd go like 7 for 8 to start the game, and everything looked clean, and then all of a sudden it just fell to the floor, and the drives just wouldn't move. He wouldn't throw just certain routes. Anything with timing just didn't seem like it was an option. So it's going to be really interesting to see who decides to pick him up. And there are certain teams, obviously, like I would think he's a little bit better than Tannehill. So the Titans could definitely be one of those teams. The Steelers could certainly be one of those teams.
You don't think they're gonna stick with Big Ben?
I think they'll stick with Big Ben, but it's quite possible maybe Big Ben's done. I mean, it's quite possible if they have a chance at Cam that he'll decide to retire and let him do that thing. But we'll see. We'll see what the whole thing turns out to be. But there are a few teams out there I think that could definitely use him and definitely use him right now and him be productive. So huge Cam Newton fan, so I'm really hoping all that works out for sure. All right, so let's go on to the last thing, very last thing. We got to talk about the Giants, obviously. So Daniel Jones. Is Daniel Jones the real deal? Why don't you go, Giants Homer fan? Jake, go.
Uh, this one's hard for me actually because as a homer, of course, I want to say yes because he's played great. But boy, does that boy, whew, he just trucks the ball at the ground sometimes, man. I feel like he needs to have ball security. I mean, let me just double check his stat line real quick, but I'm pretty sure he's got like 14 fumbles on the year. That's crazy. That is not a good number to have. I'm just gonna be honest. That's a troubling number to have for even for a rookie quarterback. Let me see here. He's got 9 fumbles lost. That's just lost. That doesn't include that he's fumble recoveries by the offensive line or like where Saquon hopped back on it or where he hopped back on it. That's 9 lost to go with his 8 interception. Okay, so that's 17 turnovers. He does, however, have 15 touchdowns. And in yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. However, he did lose both of those games.
Brutal
I don't want
Lewis.
to talk about that very much.
The Jets right there.
The Jets, yeah, and the Lions. But he's nuts. He's nuts. He can throw the ball. He's got to figure out how to keep it secure. And that he's so willing to stay in the pocket. He's not much of a runner. I mean, he runs. He runs a little bit. He's no Lamar Jackson. He's got like 200 yards. He's got a couple touchdowns rushing the ball. Nothing insane. But he to stay in the pocket and get on the field, which I like. I respect that. I really enjoy watching him play. He's just as a Giants homer fan, yes, he is the real deal. As a now work on that ball security because that excuse is okay right now as a rookie, and they're gonna let it go. But next year, the year after that, you're gonna be in the Jameis Winston talk.
And I think
you
the
gotta
last
hold on to the ball.
If you do the math, let's say you cut out that New England game and you talk about the last 4 games, and we'll just do because that's a quarter of the season, so let's do 4 games. He's 10-2, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I don't know what the fumbles were in those 4 games, and there's probably
6.
a couple in there.
6 fumbles lost in those 4 games.
In those 4 games?
6 fumbles.
Jesus, I just tried to make a case for him, but no. Dude, yeah. Awful. That's awful.
Those last one. However, in the 5 games before that, he only but yeah, dude, he's really. This is what I'm saying. Like as a Giants fan, it's hurting me. Like, and then outside looking in, it's like, holy shit, man! You've got 6 fumbles lost.
Yeah, because when you just look at the stat line and there's no fumbles, because I mean, typically with quarterbacks, maybe there's 1 in there, but there's not 6. So you look at that stat line and you're actually impressed by it. You think, wow, there's something here. You've got 2 300-yard games. You have 2 200-yard games, 2 4-touchdown games, and the other ones are just 1-and-1s. And you know what? 1-and-1s with a 200-yard game. I mean, that's a game manager, but that floor isn't terrible. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. So if the upside is 4-0 on the touchdown to interception ratio, then you have a good quarterback. So if he can figure out the fumble thing, I mean, there's a lot there to be desired. There's
Yeah.
someone there. Eli wasn't getting 4 touchdown games anymore, and he hasn't for years. So the idea that that's possible in New York should be something Giants fans are really excited about.
And honestly, if you take that Patriots game out, if you just wash that off the board, he's got 14 touchdowns and 5 picks. Like that's a pretty good stat line for a rookie quarterback.
Yeah,
The Patriots took advantage of him for sure, but the Patriots defense is taking advantage of everybody this year. Let's be honest.
yeah, that
They have more interceptions through 10 games in the year than we've seen in 40 years or something like that. But I saw on ESPN the other day.
that defense is very it's very different, but it's starting to come down a little bit. So as the competition comes up, but it's gonna finish on a high note because we looked at that schedule and it's
Yeah,
really bad.
exactly.
So even though these good teams are gonna give them a little bit, like the Ravens are gonna put a dent in some of those statistics, it doesn't matter because by the end of the year when they play the Dolphins again and they play the Bills, they're just gonna tear those teams up and it's going to be over. So they're going to have if you have fantasy Patriot ownership, congratulations.
Yeah,
That
your
shit's
brother's
nuts.
gonna be a happy guy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's insane. Absolutely insane. All right, well, I think that's everything. So I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll be jumping back on it at some point here. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you later.
Have a good one.